Bag alert, bag alert, bag alert, bag alert, bag alert, folks. And we also have some breaking news. Well, it's really not breaking news anymore because it broke yesterday, okay? But we also have some more news on what we had yesterday, okay? So originally, I was supposed to put out this episode yesterday. We had some technical difficulties. So now we're going to do it again. But this time, we got way more news that we have to talk about, okay? Yes, we have a bag alert. But we also have a lot of movement going around. Harold Landry is on the move. Jonathan Allen is on the move. Davon Godchaux is on the move. Jonah Jackson is on the move. Jaire Alexander is on the move. Khalil Shakir gets paid. The state of the NFC West, okay, including the 49ers, the Seahawks, the Cardinals, and the Rams. And we are going to be reacting to a Mel Kiper mock draft. Okay, this is the pre-combine mock draft, okay? All of this and more on the 70th episode of the Football Junkies podcast, okay? I am your host with the most, okay? I am your GM who currently is not on the team right now, but don't you worry about it, okay? I am your chief, Bagrodamus, okay? Anything and everything related to the bag and more, okay? I am the person who has 3 mock drafts already in my back pocket, but don't you worry about it. I may drop it, I may keep it, who knows, who knows, who knows? But guess what? I am all these things and more, okay? But guess what? The most important thing that you must remember is I am your host who's going to drop some truth bombs, some knowledge bombs, and some things that you may not like. But guess what? You're going to agree with it because why? I'm right. So guess what? You already know what I'm getting ready to say. You already know my spell. So guess what? On 3, 1, 2, 3, let's lock in. All right, folks, let's just get into the meat and potatoes of everything that is going on in the league right now. So, we have a lot of movement going around. Yes, today is the first day of the combine where you get to see all the workouts and whatnot. I think it's supposed to be happening around 3 this afternoon, so I'll definitely be watching it. Probably taking some notes of, some players and whatnot, but I'll keep you posted on all those things and more. So, let's just do everything, okay? Because we have a lot to unpack. So let's start with Harold Landry. So yesterday, news broke that Harold Landry, former Titans, because he's definitely going to get traded, was given permission by the Titans to seek a trade. So when we look at, his stats, in 2021, he had 12 sacks. 2022, I think he had a season-ending injury, so we can't count that. 2023, he had 10 and a half sacks. And then this past season, he had 9 sacks. So he's still a really productive pass rusher, okay? Now, when we go down to the financial part of everything, the last 2 years are not guaranteed. So all in all, this is a really good situation for anybody that inherits Harold Landry only because the last 2 years are easy to work with. It's only 17.5 million. At best, if you want, you could have him play out the rest of his deal, of course, making it guaranteed. There's different ways that you can go about this. Now, we all know most likely everyone is going to link him to the Patriots just because he played under Mike Vrabel, but I don't think he's going to be playing under Mike Vrabel. I think he wants to go to a contender. I think he wants to go to a team like, the Chiefs or the Ravens or the Bills or the 49ers or even the Eagles. I think this will probably be a great replacement for Josh Sweat if you are the Eagles, because his financials are really good. It's not something where you have this exuberant contract that you have to figure out how you're going to crunch down or you have to give up high compensation just so they can take on the guarantees. Like, no. If you wanted to, you can guarantee at least one of the 2 years or both years or whatever the case may be. You have options with Harold Landry. And I think he would be willing to do something different if it meant that he was on a contender and he has a real chance of actually winning. Compared to someone like a Myles Garrett where you're going to have to reset the market for him. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, if he went to a team like the Eagles or the Chiefs or somewhere like that, they may be able to talk him off the ledge, but still, he's still going to want his money. That's just who he is. Now, when we look at, all the other things that are going on, because it is a lot of, it's a lot of stuff moving around. Just because the combine is for, all the potential people that may be drafted, this is a time where you hear a lot of rumors, a lot of things going on. Like there was a story, and I lied to you not. I might make this the cover art. There was literally a story that broke yesterday that talked about how Ian Rappaport, an NFL Network insider, was confronted by a Fox insider, Jordan Schultz, at a Starbucks. And they literally had a verbal spat in the Starbucks. They were going back and forth. Jordan Schultz was with it. He was with it. He approached him because apparently, if I'm not mistaken, this all stems from a situation to where there was basically a source off confirming if either Matthew Stafford and Tom Brady, have met up to talk or whatnot. So originally, Jordan Schultz put out the report that said that they did meet up. But then, shortly after, you have people like Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter, and people of that caliber that basically debunked it. And then you had Tom Brady's agent that also said that it didn't happen as well. So in my mind, I'm thinking, if you have someone like an Adam Schefter, if you have someone like an Ian Rappaport, both very credible people who have major pull in the league, if both of them are saying the exact same thing, and then the agent of said player says it as well, then it is credible. So all in all, we have, man, the source off is real. It is real, folks. It is a real thing. I did not expect for this to get this bad. I would have thought, of course people, post different things and whatnot, but it's like, bro, y'all are really arguing with each other at a Starbucks because of who was right and who was wrong. Like, are you really serious right now? Come on. Come on, please. Come on. Well, what are we doing? What are we doing here, folks? But let's get back to everything. So, Jonathan Allen is on the move. Definitely did not expect this. Definitely was a major curveball. But yeah, let's get into his financials. Well, actually, no, let's not get into the financials first. Let's get into his stats. So in 2021, he had 9 sacks. 2022, he had 7.5. 2023, he had 5.5. And then this year, he had 3. Now, when we shift everything over to the financials, it's a little bit odd, okay? And I'll explain it. So his cap hit this year is $22.3 million, okay? But his base salary this year is only $15.5 million. He's at the end of his current contract, so he's looking for a new contract. I don't understand why Washington wouldn't just give him an extension. Now, is it because of the robust defensive line class? Possibly. Is it because they could be in the works of trying to get someone like a Myles Garrett? That's a possibility. Or any of these pass rushers that will be available. That is a possibility as well. But I wonder how big is Jonathan Allen's market. Only because he came off of pec injury, which originally it was supposed to be a season-ending injury. But then he decided to come back, the rest is history. I wonder, is that going to have a negative effect on him when it comes to talking to other teams? Because as of right now, you cannot say that Jonathan Allen is worth 25, 30, 35 to 45 million a year. You can't say that. You can't make him a top defensive lineman in the NFL history. You just cannot do that. Now, you could probably give him a bump in pay. You can maybe give him to sweeten the pot, like I said in the first episode of the Divisional Rodeo. You could do that. Or, how can I say this? There's different ways that you could attack this situation. Instead of just doing what you're doing now, which is allowing him to talk to other teams. Now, granted, you could probably get, compensation for it, and then you can use that to address other needs. Yes, you can do that. Because, again, you have a lot of cap space. And you don't have to break the bank for someone like a Jonathan Allen. No disrespect to him. I'm not breaking the bank for you. Not when I have to repay Bobby Wagner and Jeremy Chin and Dante Fowler Jr. and Diami Brown and Noah Brown, and I'm trying to build, this team out so that we can go right back to where we were or even further than where we were last year. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I'm trying to do, and I cannot do that if I'm trying to pay you top dollar money. I wonder how is this going to play out and who are the teams that are going to be interested? Because again, this is a really robust defensive line class. You are still going to be able to find a quality defensive lineman in the later parts of this draft. You're still going to be able to find someone like an Aeneas Peoples, Jaire Alexander, Najee Stackhouse, all of those guys. So you're going to have options. So I wonder, did that play part into the Commanders just allowing him to go somewhere else? And that's the same thing with Davon Godchaux. Sure, I understand why the Patriots would have wanted to, get off of him. But even when you look at his financials, it's not really that bad. It's actually really team friendly. His base salary is only $4 million this year, and then next year is only 6.5. Like, that's not really bad at all. So I wonder, with the robust defensive line class and then everybody getting a bump in pay with the salary cap, I wonder, is that the reason why a lot of teams are saying, hey, listen, we'll allow you to go somewhere else, to other teams, figure out what your price point is, and we'll grant you your wish. Do I think a lot of these transactions are going to happen? No. Do I think this is more of a ploy to possibly get a feel of what the league feels about them from a contractual standpoint? Yes, for sure. But only time will tell at this point. But I will say this. Moving forward, there's definitely going to be a lot of rumors, a lot of murmurs, and whatnot. I will say this. This is for any person, because even sometimes I get caught up in it myself. Do not believe everything that you see on social media. Just because somebody says, oh, I have an insider that says that the Rams and Matthew Stafford are going to finalize a deal for $65 million a year, and he's getting $100 million in guarantees. Do not believe them. Okay. If it is not coming from like an Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, Mike Garofalo, Tom Pelissero, Kimberly Martin, Jay Glazer, if it's not coming from any of those credible people, even Jordan Schultz, despite the whole Starbucks situation, if it is not coming from any of those people, credible insiders, beat writers, journalists, if it is not coming from any of those type of people, do not believe it. Or if it's not coming from that agent, or if it's not coming from a GM, if it's not coming from any of those people, do not believe it. A lot of times we get our unnecessary things and we think, oh, this is true or this is not true. If it's not coming from someone that is credible, that actually has insider information, that is actually connected with basically every single team, then there is no need for you to believe it. Now that I've gone on my little rant and whatnot, because I see that a lot, especially with the Steelers community. I definitely see that a lot, where a lot of people who are not credible, that are saying a lot of stuff that's not true. I just had to put that out there. Even for me, like, if I have not read anything, heard anything, or anything like that, I'm not going to tell y'all about it. It would be wrong for me to put out baseless lies. That's not what we do over here at the Football Junkies podcast. So on to somebody else that could be also on the move, and that is Jonah Jackson, okay? But it's understandable. And the only reason why I say that is because with the Rams, which shout out to them because they do such an amazing job when it comes to their offensive linemen, they have so many good quality guards, you could just let him go. You don't have to find a way to like keep him in. You don't have to do that. You can just let him walk. It's no problem. You still have two other really high quality guards that are playing really consistent and really good ball. So with Jonah Jackson, okay, he's on the last year of his deal. So right now his base salary is only $4.3 million and his cap hit is only $4.3 million. But he's due for some money soon, okay? So according to the Spot Rack's market value, he is worth 3 years, $47.8 million, which is $16 million a year. Would I pay for someone like a Jonah Jackson? Most likely. Because right now, what we're starting to see is, and this is sort of me being Bagrodamus, as I put on my Bagrodamus cape and whatnot, we're starting to see a shift where interior offensive linemen are starting to get paid more just to counteract the interior defensive linemen that are getting paid and are being game wreckers. So now you're starting to see that teams are really starting to invest into offensive lines just because you have to be able to, negate someone like a Max Crosby, like a Myles Garrett, like a Chris Jones, like a Michael Parsons, like a TJ Watt, like a Daniil Hunter, or Will Anderson, people of those sorts. You have to be able to find a way to counteract them. Otherwise, your quarterback is going to be a sitting duck every single time. And the only way that you can do that is if you pay your players. So for Jonah Jackson, I think he will have a very robust market because there's not a lot of high quality, productive interior offensive linemen available. So I think he will have a strong market. Now the question is, where would he go? Do I think teams like maybe the Chiefs or the Ravens or the Lions or the 49ers will be interested? For sure. I think no matter where he goes, he's going to be fairly compensated fairly well and will be an instant upgrade over what they have currently. Now, let's keep this train going here, folks, because we still have a whole lot of people that we have to talk about, okay? I think this is the final person that we have to talk about when it comes to people that are on the move, and that is Jaire Alexander, okay? So, Jaire, according to Ian Rappaport, is being shopped around. This situation is a little bit weird than all the other ones, right? Because this one, I think, sort of has a little bit of a backstory with it. I would have to do a little bit of it, but, he's missed a few games. He really hasn't been as healthy as he probably should. It's a lot of backstory with the Jaire Alexander situation. It's nothing, like super crazy or super serious, but I think the Packers realize that, listen, we have someone that has a very large contract that we're trying to get rid of, that at this point really hasn't been as productive and as reliable as we need him to be. And I think it's just time that we go in a different direction. Now, when we look at the financial aspect of this, his base salary this year is going to be $16.1 million, and then next year is going to be $18.1 million. Now, when we look at the cap hit, this is where things get a little bit weird, okay? Cap hit this year is $25.4 million, and then next year is $27.8 million. So either way, wherever he goes, most likely there is going to be some form of a restructure. Now, is it going to be a major restructure? Is it going to be an extension? What is exactly going to be? Because right now, I don't care what anyone says, Jaire Alexander is still one of the best corners in the league. He can still hold his own against a Jamar Chase, a DK Metcalf, a Brandon Ayuk, a Justin Jefferson, receivers of that world. He can still go toe-to-toe with them without a safety over top. Now, the question is, where would be the best place for someone like a Jaire Alexander? Now, you could probably think of the Ravens. You could probably think of the Steelers. You could probably think of the Eagles. You could probably think of the Chiefs. You could probably think of the 49ers. There are multiple teams right now that would definitely want to have someone like a Jaire Alexander. Because despite the injuries, he is still, a number one corner. Compensation for Jaire Alexander, my guess is, will probably be a first-round pick. And the only reason why I say that is because, for one, he has very high cap hits for both this year and next year. And on top of that, his base salary is still pretty high as well. So I think if you give them a first-round pick, with the notion that you're going to have to take on some of his guarantees, I think the Packers will be willing to do that compared to just allowing him to go for like a second or a third or fourth round pick. Now, is there going to be a team that may try to, finesse it? There's a possibility. I think a team like the Eagles, they could definitely pick to get someone like a Jaire Alexander. Because outside of Quinyon Mitchell, who do you have? And Darius Slay is getting up in age. Do you want to keep Darius Slay for another year? I don't know. That's still a question that they have to figure out pretty soon, Not to mention, with the cornerback class being not as big as what it has been the last 2 or 3 years, I think a team would be more open to going after someone like a Jaire Alexander, somebody that is proven, compared to someone like a Will Johnson or Benjamin Moore, Siobhan Revel, Trey Amos, Jahdae Barron, just a few, right? And so I wonder what exactly caused the Packers to just say, you know what, we're just done with it. We're done with it. We'll let you go somewhere else. We're tired. We don't want to deal with this no more. Like, what exactly has happened? Because the last few years, we've been hearing rumblings about the Packers. Situation with Jaire Alexander, and then there was a situation with the receiver. I forgot who the receiver was, where he didn't show up to a game, and so they suspended him for one game. But only time will tell. I will say this: he's probably going to get moved pretty quickly. I think right now there's probably at least 2 or 3 teams that are like really serious about this and would do whatever they need to do to close this deal. Because again, it's very rare that you have a high elite corner, someone like a Jaire Alexander, that is available via trade. Okay, let's get into this battler. Okay, so Buffalo Bills receiver Khalil Shakir has inked a 4-year, $60.2 million deal, $2 million guaranteed at signing with $15 million a year. Okay, now when we look at his stats, 76 receptions for 821 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns, and 10.8 receiving yards per reception. All in all, this is a really good team-friendly deal. Okay, you have someone that is really reliable, has been very productive in both, the regular season and in the off season, who has made some dynamic plays, especially in the playoffs. So, all in all, it's a great signing. And not to mention, I don't think Khalil Shakir has, this robust market where it's, 20, 25, or like 30 million a year. Like, no, he's still, maybe like tier two or like tier three when it comes to receivers, which is still not bad. He's still a really productive receiver. Like, he is somebody that when you need him the most, guess what? He's going to make that play. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a Khalil Shakir play being made at the most randomest time. Josh Allen and him are like Kobe and Shaq, okay? They don't have to talk. It's just something that they do, all right? They just have a chemistry between the two of them, all right? And he's definitely been a really consistent receiver since, the departure of Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. So all in all, it's a really good deal. Like, deals like these, it's amazing. It's not something that is going to break the bank. It's not something where you're going to have to, figure out, okay, how are we going to be able to create cap space? Because this is a deal that is team friendly, that they can easily get out of. And it's something to where Khalil Shakir gets his money up front, and the Bills really don't have to worry about, the backlash that comes with it. Okay, because at best, he's probably a 2 or 3 on anybody else's team. Now, let's get into the divisional rodeo, folks. And we're doing it West Coast style, okay? NFC West, to be specific. So, you already know the spill. We go over the salary, free agents, draft picks, positions of need, candidates for restructure, extension, trade, and cut. Okay, so let's start with the 49ers, okay? So with their salary, they have $47.1 million in cap space, which is 12th in the league, and they have a rollover cap of $50 million. Now when we look at their free agents, Tarvarius Ward, Dre Greenlaw, Devondre Campbell, John Feliciano, but he retired, Josh Dobbs, Kevin Givens, Brandon Allen, Demetrius Flanagan Flowers, Rock Ya-Sin, Khalil Davis, and Talanoa Hufanga, just to name a few. When we look at their draft picks, of course they have their first, their second, they have 2 third-round picks, 3 fourth-round picks, 1 fifth-round pick, 1 sixth-round pick, and 3 seventh-round picks. Their positions of need: offensive line, defensive line, corner, linebacker, receiver, running back, and I'm going to add one more. Now, these last 2 are going to be really controversial, but just roll with me, okay? Quarterback. So when it comes to offensive line, the 49ers have really liked the offensive line for a while. Granted, you have someone in Trent Williams who was the anchor of your left side. But outside of him, who can you trust? Who can you really say that, hey, if this person goes down, hey, we can plug him in, there's no problem. He won't lose a beat, nothing won't happen, everything's going to be fine. You don't have that. And so you have to invest high into the offensive line. Now, I'm not saying that you have to draft offensive linemen, in the first round every single year. No. But what I am saying is this: you are going to have to make an investment, a high investment into offensive line at some point. Because if you don't, your quarterback is going to get crushed. And so what we're seeing is a team, especially offensively, where a lot of their players have just aged. And so right now, if you want to stay at least somewhat competitive, you are going to have to put in some fresh, younger, productive players. And you have to start at the offensive line. Your right tackle has to get fixed. Guard has to get fixed. Center, I haven't really seen a whole lot with their center. I think center could definitely be fine. But interior offensive line and right tackle, I think you could definitely upgrade that. Because right now, all you have is Trent Williams. That's not enough. That's not going to get you anywhere. Instead, you have to make proper upgrades when it comes to the offensive line. Now, you have options. You can go and you can draft one in the first round. You can get a Josh Conley, if I'm not mistaken. You can get the right tackle from Mizzou. You have options. Or you could go and get someone like a Jonah Jackson. You could go and possibly get someone like a Kevin Zeiler, a more veteran approach if you want to take that route. You have different options when it comes to offensive line. When we look at defensive line, this is a situation to where you can address it in a few different ways. You can go and get someone like a Jonathan Allen. You can go and get someone like a Milton Williams. You can go and get someone, in the draft if you wanted to. Because even in the draft, you have better odds at double dipping at defensive line than you do at any other position, only because of how robust the group is. You're going to have your Kenneth Grants, your Mason Grahams, your Jaire Alexanders, your Aeneas Peebles. You're some high quality defensive linemen that are going to be available past the first round. So you can go and you can make that investment twice if you really wanted to. Because right now, the Javon Hargrave deal has not matured. It has not aged well, if we can be honest here. So now you have to find a way where you can get better productivity out of the defensive line. Because when you went through a season where literally you were trying to bring in defensive linemen just so you can have people on that line. You brought in a Khalil Davis. You traded for, I think, another defensive lineman, if I'm not mistaken. Like, you have to bring in better quality defensive linemen to help out Nick Bosa. Otherwise, you're not going to go anywhere. We literally just saw in the Super Bowl what happens when you have a very productive defensive line. They're going to win their reps. They're going to create pressure on the quarterback. And most importantly, they're going to win the championship. Defense still wins championships. But here is the kicker. It starts at the line. If you win at the line, everything else is easy. But the line isn't that strong, well then guess what? What's going to happen now? What you going to do? You can't put no pressure on the quarterback. And if you don't put no pressure on a quarterback, someone like a Patrick Mahomes, guess what? They're going to cook you like hibachi every single time. So you're going to have to make that investment. Now when we look at corner, you could go and you can draft someone like a Will Johnson, like a Siobhan Revel, like a Benjamin Morrison, like a Trey Amos, for instance. You can take that route. Or you can take a swing at someone like a Jaire Alexander if you wanted to. So all in all, with the cornerback position, I think someone like a Benjamin Morrison, a Siobhan Revel, a Will Johnson, I think their draft stock is going to drop. It's already been confirmed that, if I'm not mistaken, Will Johnson will not be participating at the Combine. He'll only be participating at his pro day. So that automatically might drop his draft stock a little bit. Same thing with Benjamin Morrison. Same thing with Sean Revel. Now, granted, they are very productive corners that have a lot of upside with their game. But the fact of the matter is, do you want to commit a first-round pick to someone that has the extensive injury history that they do have? Me, personally, I still would do it for someone like a Will Johnson. Because Will Johnson is a one. The injuries, that just comes with football, okay? As long as he's healthy, as long as he's productive, that's all that matters. Because you have to replace Charvarius Ward's role. Because Charvarius has already said he's not coming back. And we all know why he's not coming back. Which, thoughts and prayers still to, to his family. It definitely... You have to be a strong person to play the regular season when you have suffered what he has suffered. And for those who don't know, he lost a child during the regular season. And so that is one of the major reasons why he does not want to come back to the 49ers, because there's a lot of painful memories, since being in that area. And that's perfectly fine. I have no problem with that. But you have to replace that, okay? Because outside of Green and Diamador Lenore, Lenore is a slot corner. Renardo Green, he could definitely be an outside corner, for sure. He has the intangibles to definitely be an outside corner. But you still need somebody to tag along with him, okay? And when we look at linebacker, you could, extend Dre Greenlaw if you wanted to, Or you can go and get someone like a Jihad Campbell or Chris Paul Jr. or the linebacker from Cal or the linebacker from Arkansas. Like, you have options there. You could get Barrett Carter. Like, there's different options when it comes to linebacker. Now, granted, the Devondre Campbell situation is a little bit sensitive for a few people, but the fact of the matter is you're going to have to make an investment at linebacker. Where is it going to be at? Are you going to get someone like a veteran like, I don't know, Devin White or Levante David? Or are you going to, just draft one? Me personally, I would just draft one. There's no point in you continuing to try to keep all of these players. Like, no, at some point, you're going to have to let them go if you want to be able to still be a little bit competitive. The 49ers window is almost essentially closed at this point. For one, Kyle Shanahan does not trust anybody outside of his star players. If you are not a star player, Kyle Shanahan does not trust you. We have seen it multiple times. When you make a simple mistake, guess what happens? He loses faith in you, and then he just does not use you at all. And that is a major knock to someone like a Kyle Shanahan, because here you are being this great offensive-minded head coach, and you are not able to properly utilize every single player on your team. And granted, you have some really productive players. And for you not to really use them for whatever reason is just a major slap in the face. And so now you have to figure out exactly what are you going to do moving forward, because your team is getting old. Your team is not going anywhere. Your team has to figure out exactly what are they going to do different this year that they haven't done in the last few years, because everybody has caught on to the Kyle Shanahan plan. Everybody knows exactly what you're doing now. Up to this point, everyone was trying to figure out how to crack the code when it came to playing against the 49ers, because you guys were ahead of the game when it came to the play calling and execution and whatnot. But now defensive coordinators have caught on. Now they know exactly what you're doing. And now they know how to counteract exactly what you're doing. So you have to figure out exactly what can you do to stick out. Because right now, you are not the best team in the NFC. My guess, you'll probably be the third, maybe fourth, or maybe fifth best NFC team. The Eagles are the first, Commanders are second, and then it's everybody else. Now, to some people, you probably say, well, why would you put the Commanders at second? The Commanders right now have so much upside with their roster that it's ridiculous, okay? All they really need to do is just work on their defense. If they work on their defense, they're back in the NFC Championship, guaranteed. There was a point in time where the NFC West was the 49ers division, but that is no longer the case. The Rams have gotten their act together. The Cardinals are getting their act together. The Seahawks are getting their act together. Everybody in the division is getting their act together, except for you. You are continuing to regress, and your team is getting older and expensive. That is not how you win championships. You cannot continue to go through offseason after offseason after offseason, continuing to reset the market for players. At some point, the line has to be drawn. Either you take this deal or go. That's just what it has to be. I don't care who they are. I don't care what they've done. I don't care how productive they are in the field. You have to give them an ultimatum. Because you continuing to write checkbooks and you haven't been in the Super Bowl able to hold up a Lombardi, it's worthless. It's going to be worthless at the end of the day when everything is said and done that you guys don't have at least one championship. Y'all have made trades for Christian McCaffrey, for Trent Williams. You paid for George Kittle. You paid for Brandon Ayuk, for Deebo Samuel. You just repaid Christian McCaffrey. You reset the market for Nick Bosa. You paid for Fred Warner. Like, you've been paying a whole bunch of people, and you guys haven't won a Super Bowl. Meanwhile, the Chiefs won Super Bowls. The Eagles just won a Super Bowl. What have you guys done? Just paying players? That's not how you win. That's not how you win, bro. Now, granted, I do think the one thing that they do have in their favor is they brought back Robert Saleh. That was the best thing that they could have ever did. You're bringing back somebody who was very productive with the defense. The defense phenomenally well under both Robert Saleh and I can't even remember his name. The D'Amico Ryans. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. D'Amico Ryans. The defense was playing better under those two. So you bringing back someone like a Robert Saleh, I think that can allow players like a Nick Bosa, a Fred Warner, Diamador Lenore can believe in, because you have somebody that was very productive, that brought the best out of every single defensive player, and had this defense being a top 5 defense. If that defense gets its act together, the 49ers could be back in the NFC Championship. But if they don't, then guess what? This will all be a waste. You heard it here first. And if that's the case, Kyle Shanahan got to go. John Lynch got to go. Because y'all done made all these moves. What did he get you? Nothing. That case is still empty. Howie is looking for another productive player that he can add so he can go and get another Super Bowl. What are you guys doing? But when we look at receiver, okay, you have options, okay? Me personally, I feel like the day 2 and day 3 slots for receiver is better than the day 1 slot. I feel like with day 2 and day 3, you can find some hidden gems. You can definitely work with them and probably bring the best out of them. You know, you can get someone like, you know, the receivers from Colorado. You can go and get someone like a Jack Besh, Jaden Higgins. Who was the receiver from Stanford? I just forgot about his name. You can go and get him. You can get Isaiah Bond. Like, you have options for day 2 and day 3 at receiver that I think that if you get, I think would be better than trying to, you know, make a big splash play for, you know, for receiver. Even when you look at the veteran receivers for free agency, what is it about them that makes you say, hey, we have to go and have to, you know, get them? Like Keenan Allen, I don't know. I don't think I really want to do that. Stephon Diggs, I don't know. The only person I probably would want to take is maybe T. Higgins. And even then, I'm not paying you a whole lot of money. I'm not paying you 30 plus million. I'm not doing that. I'm going to give you the same deal that I gave to Brandon Ayuk. Take it or leave it. I am not continuing to reset the market for people, and I have not won a Super Bowl. I'm just not doing that. Now, running back, for this one, I was a little bit torn about. Only because, yes, you still have Christian McCaffrey, but my thinking is if you reduce the amount of snaps McCaffrey gets, you can keep him fresh for the second half of the season and going into the playoffs, compared to just, you know, running him down, and then by the time you get to the second half of the season, he's missing 3, 4, 5 games. And then not to mention, with this running back class being as big as it is, you have to go and you have to get somebody, at least one. Like, I mean, you have Devin Neal, Caleb Johnson, Bashul Tuin, Omarion Hampton, Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson, the running back from Delaware. Who else? I know I'm missing a few, but like, since at running back, that I think if you get them, I think that could help Christian McCaffrey and just help the offense as a whole. When we look at candidates for restructure, extension, trades, and cuts, Brock Purdy, either extension or cuts. And I know this is controversial, but the only reason why I say that is because when we look at his market value, 4 years, $238.9 million. That is $59.7 million a year. That's close to $60 million. You are close to Dak Prescott. No, I am not overpaying for Brock Purdy. I'm not even allowing him to get close to 50. I'm not even allowing him getting close to 45. I am not going to pay Brock Purdy a whole bunch of money. Now, granted, he did make it to the Super Bowl. I'm not going to take that away from him. But what I am not going to do is commit a whole bunch of money to this quarterback. And if he does not want this, then guess what? Bring in a bridge quarterback, see what happens, see what you get from him. And if you like it, cool. If not, next year, you draft your quarterback. That's just what it is at this point. Because right now, you continuing to these big checks for these players is not helping. It's not going to get you closer to winning a championship, let alone get a chip. Okay? Javon Hart, I think that's definitely expected. He has not lived up to that contract that they gave him. And so it's just best that you just cut your losses and just let him go. Deebo Samuel, cut as well. I feel like there's no need to trade him because you're not going to get a whole lot of draft picks for him. Probably get him for like a 6th or 7th round pick, honestly. Dre Greenlaw, give him an extension. And if you took that route, he would be worth a 1 year, $6.6 million deal, which is only $6.7 million a year. That's not really bad. But at the same time, I feel like you do have to take care of Dre Greenlaw because he plays such a pivotal role on this defense outside of Fred Warner. Like, he has shown that he can be the heartbeat of this defense at times. Now, when we look at Josh Dobbs, you can give him an extension just so you can have a quarterback, on the roster and whatnot, just in case, anything crazy happens. But all in all, the 49ers are in a good spot cap-wise. But from a talent standpoint, from a roster standpoint, they have a lot to work on. And I'll just leave it there. But we do have somewhat of breaking news, and that is John Lynch is listening to offers for Brandon Ayuk. And this is coming from Grant Cohn. I'm going to say that again just so you can hear me, but this time I'm going to say it a little bit closer to the mic. John Lynch is listening to offers for Brandon Ayuk. The Brandon Ayuk, by the way, that they just paid for, that they just went through that whole debacle for. Also, John Lynch has said there's no guarantee that they will pay Brock Purdy. Once again, folks, we have another offseason of the 49ers drama. But let's just get into the Rams, okay? So with the Rams, man, do they have a lot of drama going on as well. So for them, their cap is $39.2 million, which is 15th in the league. They have a cap of $2.7 million, okay? Their free agents include Alaric Jackson, Demarcus Robinson, Tutu Atwell, Cameron Curl, Tyler Higbee, John Johnson, and Akello Weatherspoon. So when we look at their draft picks, okay, they got their first. They don't have a second. They have their third. They have their fourth. They don't have a fifth. And they have 3 6th-round picks, okay? That really doesn't matter to them because they've used 5th and 6th-round picks and, turn them into pros. Just saying. Let's see. What else? Positions of need. Corner, receiver, tackle, linebacker, quarterback, defensive line, tight end. Now let's get to quarterback first, okay? Let's get to the elephant of the room here, okay? So with quarterback, it's a very sticky situation, okay? On one hand, I do believe Matthew Stafford does have a market. On the other hand, I feel like this is more of the Rams are trying to see, okay, what exactly are teams, how do they feel about him, and what is his value? I think if his value is universally low, it benefits the Rams. But if it's high, just let him go. Bring in a bridge and just, figure out what you're going to do next year. Because right now, paying Matthew Stafford 55 or 60 million, I'm just not doing that. Now, if it's something around maybe 38, maybe 45 a year, I'll do it. I may have a tough time writing that check. But if it's anything past that, we have nothing to talk about. Okay. I mean, sure, you could go and maybe get someone like a Justin Fields or an Aaron Rodgers or Sam Darnold or someone like that, but I think the ball is in Matthew Stafford's court. Matthew Stafford has to figure out exactly what does he want to do. If he wants to stay, they'll accept him with open arms. But if he wants to go, they'll let him go. They have no problem doing that whatsoever. Now, when we look at defensive line, their defensive line is pretty good. You could go and get a veteran if you want to, or you can draft one of these guys if you really wanted to. That's an option, with the Rams. Because, you still have Brandon Fisk. You have Jared Verse. You have Kobe Turner. Like, you have some really good guys in your defensive line. And if you wanted to add another one, you could. You're not necessarily where it's like, I have to do this. It's more of a, do we want to do this now or do we want to do this later, right? This tight end class is actually good. And with someone like a Tyler Higbee who is big up and he's been battling with a lot of injuries, probably want to go and, get you a tight end. You could get someone like a Harold Fannin Jr. You can go and get the tight end of Miami. You could go and get someone like a Tyler Warren if you wanted to, right? Other position, linebacker. Same thing that I've said with the other previous teams. You could, Chris Paul Jr. specifically, Jihad Campbell. You can go and get the linebacker from from Cal if you wanted to. You could get a Barrett Carter. You could take the veteran approach. You have options there. Same thing with tackle. You could go and you can draft one or you can pay for one. Now, paying for one, you might be able to get for a steal. Someone like a Dan Moore, you could get him for maybe like 8, maybe 12 million a year. It's not going to break the bank, you know? Or you can go, you can draft one. You can get the tackle from Mizzou. You can get the tackle from Ohio State. You can get the tackle from Oregon. Like, you have different options there. Wide receiver, that's the only position that I'm a little bit skeptical about, only because the wide receiver class this year is just not good. Feels like how it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago, perfectly fine. No problems whatsoever. But this class, outside of day 1, no. Now, the day 2 and day 3 class, I feel like there are a lot of hidden gems. Someone like a Jaden Higgins, the receiver from Stanford. You could get Jack Best. You could get Savion Williams. You can get Isaiah Bond. Like, you have some really good notable receivers. And the beauty of it is they're not all the same type. You have, your shifty guys. You got your fast guys. You got your physical receivers. You got your blocking receivers. You got your yak receivers. Like, you have different receivers in this draft class, which is actually really good. Now, when we look at corner is something that if I'm the Rams, do I want to prioritize that high? Do I want to go and bring in proven, or do I want to get a rookie that I can build? Now, the thing that would benefit them a lot is a lot of these corners are not going to be drafted high. I do not expect Will Johnson to be drafted high. I do not expect Benjamin Moore, Javon Revel to be drafted high. I think the only person that could be drafted high, and that's depending on if he participates in the combine or not, is Trey Amos. Outside of him, nobody else should be that super high. Because Benjamin Morrison and Will Johnson all have the same red flag, injury concerns. Javon Revel won't be available until training camp. Benjamin Morrison might be the same boat as well. And maybe even Will Johnson as well. So, all in all, you have options with every single one of these positions. You don't necessarily have to address it high in the draft if you don't want to. If you want to wait and see how the board falls, sure, you can do that. If you want to go and trade down, you can do that. If you want to trade up, you can do that. You have options, even with defensive line. You could get someone like an Alfred Collins. You can get the defensive lineman from Notre Dame. Like, you get TJ Sanders from South Carolina. You can get a defensive lineman, what is his name? Deion Walker. Like, you have options. You have a boatload of options. The Rams are one of the teams where, honestly speaking, they have been better at drafting in the later parts of the draft than what they have been in the first half of the draft. Remember that year where they didn't have a whole lot of draft picks? Like, they gave away, I think, like their first, their second, their third, fourth round picks just so they can have a Super Bowl team and whatnot. And look what happened. Those later picks, those things hit. So I don't know how they do it, but they do it. They definitely do it. Now, for the Rams are in a really good spot. But it all depends on what Matthew Stafford does. And Matthew Stafford stays with the Rams, they are still a wild card / playoff caliber team. If he leaves, depending who they bring in, will determine if they are right back where they were last year or nowhere at all. Because if they bring in someone like a Aaron Rodgers, I don't think that moves the needle. But if you bring in someone like a Justin Fields, I think there is potential. I think for Justin Fields, going to someone like a Sean McVay would be great because he would refine you and he would work with you to make you a better passing quarterback. I think that would be great, honestly. But only time will tell. But when we look at candidates for restructure, extension, trades, and cuts, Matthew Stafford, extension or trade. Okay? When we look at his market value, it's only a 2-year, $83.3 million deal, which is only $41.8 million a year. That's not bad. I think that's reasonable, honestly. And you can make it front loaded or you could back load it. You have options, okay? Joseph Noboom, possibly. His market value isn't that high. I think you could bring him back. I don't see the reason to, let him go. Tutu Atwell, same thing. DeMarcus Robinson, same thing. You could give these guys low extensions and it won't necessarily break the bank, but at the same time, you keep some players that you really believe in. I think all in all, I don't think there's like a whole lot of people on their team where it's like, yeah, you got to get rid of them, or you got to trade this person, or you got to do this, or you got to do that. Like, no, like the Rams are actually in a really good space. It's just right now you have to continue to build off of what you have right now, because let's be real here. Give it about maybe 2 years. They may be back in the Super Bowl. Just saying. Now, when we look at the Cardinals, okay, their salary situation is this: $71.3 million in cap space with a rollover cap of $11.3 million. Okay, they're free agents: Kyzir White, Will Hernandez, Matt Prater, Calvin Beachum, Zach Pascal, Zay Jones, Baron Browning, and Dennis Gardick, just to name a few. Okay, their draft picks: they have a first, a second, a third, a fourth, and a fifth. Their positions of need: interior offensive line, linebacker. Pretty straightforward. Okay. Now, with receiver, I think they could trade up. I think they could go and get someone like T-Mac, or they could get someone like a Luther Burden if they want to, or they can get Emeka Ibuka, right? Matthew Golden. You have options there. Or you could wait for the day 2 and day 3 selections, and you can get someone like Isaiah Bond, or Jack Besh, or Savion Williams, just to name a few. When we look at interior offensive line, I think if you bring back someone like Will Hernandez, I don't think it's going to really break the bank. Even when you look at his market value, it's only a 2-year, $8.5 million deal, which is only $4.3 million a year. That's not bad at all. You could do that, or you could bring in another veteran if you wanted to, or you could just draft one. The Cardinals are starting to get their act together, okay? Because we all remember where they had Kyler Murray and D-Hop and A.J. Green and J.J. Watt, and everyone was saying like, oh, this is going to be a team that everybody got to worry about, and they just fell off a cliff. Well, now they finally got their act together, and now they're in a really good space. And so it's only up from here. And so their positions of need really isn't that bad. Like, you can go and you can get a receiver from free agency and maybe draft one, it'll be perfectly fine. Or you could do the same thing with linebacker. Or you could do the same thing with offensive line if you want to. But right now, they have a lot of pieces in their favor, okay? Same thing with linebacker. If you want to address it high, go ahead. Go for it. Go ahead and get someone like a Jihad Campbell if you want to. If you feel that high about him. Go ahead and get someone like a Chris Paul Jr. if you want to. Go ahead and get someone like a Barrett Carter if you want to. You have options. This is the beauty of a team like the Cardinals. You have a lot of cap space. You have a high enough draft pick where either you can trade up or you can trade down. Because somebody will be interested to either trading down with you or trading up with you. Just saying. Now, when we look at extensions, restructures, trades, or cuts, Kyzir White, give him an extension. It's not going to break the bank. 2 years, $11.5 million, which is only $5.8 million a year. Not bad. Zay Jones, same thing. His market value, 1 year, $1.4 million. $1.4 million a year. That's not bad. Calvin Beachum, he may have a market. Just because he's a swing tackle and he's a really productive and consistent swing tackle. He may have a market. That might be the one where he may test the free agency. But even with his market value, it's only a 1 year, $4 million deal, which is only $4.1 million a year. That's not bad. That's actually really good. The Cardinals are in a really good spot. Just saying. I wouldn't be surprised if they made a few splashy moves in the first 2 weeks of free agency. Just saying. Now on to the final team that we have to talk about, and that is the Seahawks. So the Seahawks are in a bad situation. Okay, they are in a really bad situation, all right? So they are negative $11.3 million in cap space with a rollover cap of $8.4 million. Free agents: Jaron Reed, Farrell Brown, Jonathan Hankins, Kayvon Wallace, Kalen Tomlinson, Artie Burns, Ernest Jones, Trey Brown, and Travis Gibson, just to name a few, okay? Draft picks: first, second, third, fourth, fifth, 2 6th-round picks, and a 7th-round pick, okay? Positions of need: interior off tight end, corner, safety, receiver, okay? Where do we start from here? So for one, you're in the red with cap space. Okay. 2, you have to figure out exactly what's going on with their offense and whatnot moving forward. Because apparently Geno Smith posted like a cryptic tweet not too long ago of LeBron, getting up and leaving the conference when he was wearing the suit and whatnot. So that probably lets me know that there's a little bit of discourse going on in Seattle right now. So, for one, you have a few options, okay? Interior offensive line, most likely you'll probably draft that. Same thing with tight end, same thing with corner, same thing with safety, and same thing with receiver, okay? But with tight end, you have a little bit of flexibility because you could get someone like a Colston Loveland, or you can get someone like a Tyler Warren, or Harold Fannin Jr. or I keep forgetting about what is his name, but I know he's a tight end from Miami who's like really productive. Like you have options at tight end. The tight end class this year is actually pretty good, but corner is a position that I think they can address in maybe day 2 and day 3. Only because I think more of a slot corner than outside corner. Because I mean, you have Tyreek Woolen and Devin Witherspoon, so you could go and get someone like a Jade Barron or Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky. You get Quincy Riley. Like you have some really good slot options this year, believe it or not. So you can address that day 2 or day 3, no problem. Compared to maybe safety or receiver. Safety, believe it or not, and this is just my take personally, that safety from South Carolina, he is going to be a problem. If you put him on the right defense, he is going to be a menace to society. 6'3", 200 and some pounds. He is ready to go. He has let it be known. Listen, I'm going to make some plays. I'm that guy. He's letting it be known. Between him and Malachi Starks, I feel like those two are definite first round pick safeties. But the question is, do you want to invest a first round pick into a safety? Because receiver is not that good, as I will continue to say, so there's no need for you to do it. Interior offensive line, do you really want to do that? I don't think so. Tight end, now tight end for sure, yes. You could, draft Colston Loveland if you wanted to. But all the other positions, you can draft them day 2 and day 3. But I think the primary thing that you have to figure out is, are you keeping Geno Smith or not? If you are not keeping Geno Smith, then you need to figure out exactly what you're going to do moving forward. And you have to clean up your cap space. When we move down to candidates for restructure, extension, trades, and cuts, Tyler Lockett, either trade or cut at this point. Because right now, when we look at everything, his base salary, yes, is only $10 million this year, but his cap hit is $30.8 million. $30.8 million. One or two things are going to happen. Either they're going to restructure that deal, or they're just going to cut ties with him. But the only problem is Tyler Lockett really going to have a strong market? No, I don't think so. I think right now, he probably has maybe one more good year. And that's if he really wants to play. I don't think he really wants to play. I mean, he has nothing else to prove. I mean, you did everything you needed to do. You won a Super Bowl. You've had a really productive career. Like, there's nothing else for you to prove at this point. Compared to like a Geno Smith, where if they got rid of him, it'll be a little bit tricky because why? This year, his base salary is only $14.8 million, but his cap hit is $44.5 million. They got some bad contracts that they gotta clean up. And they got to clean it up really quickly if they want to try to really help this team out. Because the Seahawks are a really competitive team. That defense is really good. It's just the offense that they have to figure out. And even then, it's not that big of a dilemma. Hold that thought for a moment because we got some breaking news, folks. Trey Smith, guard for the Chiefs, has been franchise tagged, okay, because they are trying to work on a long-term extension, okay. This is being reported by insiders, including Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, the big ones, okay, the big wigs, okay. So with this franchise tag, it's basically a 1-year, $23.4 million deal, fully guaranteed. Now, technically, this will make him the highest paid, but we know that this is a placeholder for a long-term deal. Most likely, they're going to get a deal done within the next few days. Okay, they just didn't want him to, hit free agency and then start, talking with other teams. And then, the legal tampering period is, right around the corner and whatnot. So if this happens, that means that everyone's free agency board is messed up now because if I'm not mistaken, he is the number one sought after free agent, this year. So maybe this will go in a good direction. Maybe this will go in a bad direction, but only time will tell. This is still an ongoing situation. So stay tuned for that. But back to the Seahawks. So when we look at, extensions and whatnot, Tyreek Woolen, I think you probably should give him an extension now. I feel like there's no need to wait. Just do it now. Because right now, if you wait, you run the risk of potentially having to pay him a little bit more next season. Because Sauce is due for a contract soon. Are you going to wait for Sauce to get a deal? Or are you going to be a little bit front and just, hey, let's just come to the table now. Let's get a deal hashed out right now before anything else crazy happens. But all in all, there's not a lot of stuff that they really have to work on except for, Geno Smith, Tyler Lockett, and DK Metcalf. Once they figure out those three contracts, I think we will have a better view of their right now. Yes, you're going to have a little bit of a bump in salary cap because, everybody is getting a bump in salary cap, but it's not going to be significant enough to where you guys can be big playmakers in free agency. Now, me personally, do I think they're going to keep all three? No. I think at best, Tyler Lockett retires, DK Metcalf gets traded, and Geno Smith gets traded. And I think the Seahawks will probably either draft a quarterback or they'll just take a swing at like a bridge quarterback and then make the big move that they need to make for next year. But I'm going to end this episode here. If you guys like what you were listening. Oh, wait, nope, I forgot. You thought this episode was over. No, it is not over because we have to react to the Mel Kiper mock draft. So I don't know what it is, and I may have to rewatch his footage, but I just don't see it with Abdul Carter. I don't know what it is, but people are making it seem like he's like the next Micah Parsons or Julius Peppers or, one of these top-end pass rushers. Like, I just don't see it. I see somebody that relies more on his athleticism than his skill set. Like, I don't need an athletic pass rusher. I need a technician. A technician is going to last longer than an athletic pass rusher because guess what? If one injury happens to that athletic pass rusher, they're done. Because why? You never worked on your skill set, so now you're basically a sitting duck. Compared to a technician where his game can just evolve and it's just going to age like wine even as he get older. Cam Hayward is not this super athletic player, but he's a technician when it comes to the use of his hands and whatnot. Same thing for Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett's game is going to age very well because why? He doesn't have to rely on his athleticism. He relies on what? His technique. That is important here. But moving on. Cam Ward goes second overall. Yeah, I guess. The Giants pick Travis Hunter. No. Well, you know what? No, I take that back. The only way this would happen is if they either get Sam Darnold, Matthew Stafford, or another quarterback. I don't think that's going to happen, personally. Patriots, Will Campbell. Yeah. Depends, really. Me, personally, I could view him as a guard. That's just my personal opinion. I think he's better at guard than tackle because of how short his arms are. But, we'll find out, his measurements and whatnot in the coming days. Jacksonville Jaguars, they pick Mason Graham. That's a great pick. Helps with the defense. Let's see. Let's keep this party going. Jets get Shedeur Sanders? No. I personally do not like this one. I don't know what it is, but Shedeur Sanders, when it comes to his ball placement, I love it. Spot on. But there is nothing about Shedeur Sanders that just screams a person that you can rely on to win you or to carry you to the playoffs. I just don't see it, but I could be wrong. Panthers choosing Jalen Walker. That is an intriguing pick, especially with them, Shaq Thompson, that they're going to let him go. That could be definitely an intriguing pick because he probably could play both middle linebacker and outside linebacker, honestly speaking. 9th overall, Tyler Warren to the Saints. I actually like that because Spencer Rattler needs some weapons. Okay, outside of Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara, what else do you have? Adding Tyler Warren would definitely help out substantially. Bears, Josh Simmons. Yes. Does need help at offensive line significantly. 49ers choose Will Johnson. We just talked about it, which is crazy. So, yeah, I actually like that pick. Cowboys getting a Marion Hampton. No, I do not like that. Personally, I would have thought that they would either get a defensive player or that they would get a receiver. And I only say that because Dak needs weapons. Okay? Outside of CeeDee Lamb, who else do you really have? And then not to mention, you do need to address the offensive line as well because the offensive line is going through rebuild. With them losing Zach Martin to retirement, that whole offensive line is going to have to go through rebuild. Like, come on now. The Dolphins getting Armand Membu from Mizzou. I actually like that. I definitely do like that. He's a really good right tackle. He is definitely somebody that I've definitely had my eye on. If we didn't have Troy Fautanu, I'm speaking for the Steelers, just saying. If we didn't have Troy Fautanu, I would have definitely said go after him. Colts getting Malachi Starks, yes, because I think their safety is a free agent, so that would definitely make a lot of sense. 15, the Falcons, Mike Green, yes, because they do need pass rusher help bad. Their pass rushers were not able to do anything, and then with them trading Judon, they would have thought getting Judon would have helped. No, it did not help. It actually made things worse. I don't know why. 16th. Shamar Stewart to the Cardinals? That actually, I can roll with that. Shamar Stewart is definitely somebody that could play in. He can definitely be a really good productive pass rusher. I think if the Cardinals really wanted to stand out, continue to build on that defensive line, if you do that, I guarantee you they will be a problem. 17th pick, Cincinnati Bengals select Michael Williams. No comment. No comment. Seattle Seahawks choose Tyler Booker, guard from Alabama. I could see that. I could definitely see that. Because all the other positions, they can address that in the later parts of the draft, as I just said. 19th pick, Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Jihad Campbell. Yes. To replace Levante David, great pickup. Great. That would be a great... Let's see. Denver Broncos choose Colston Loveland. Yes, because they do need a really productive tight end. 21 Pittsburgh Steelers, Emeka Egbuka. Yes, only because Emeka Egbuka is a Swiss Army knife and he can play both inside and outside. And he's a really good blocker, so definitely not opposed to it. Me personally, I would have thought, address either corner or defensive line early, but only time will tell. This is interesting, though. That is interesting. That's very interesting. Not because of the play. Well, yes, because of the player, because if he does drop, it's a major red flags. But at the same time, the Chargers do need weapons, okay? Outside of Lad McConkey, Quentin Johnston, he just haven't lived up to the hype. He's a bust at this point. You need as many receivers as you possibly can, all right? And he is somebody that can catch the 50-50 ball. That's going to be his specialty. Packers choosing Ezra Thomas, replacement for Jaire Alexander. Minnesota Vikings choose Gray Zabel. Perfect. He is somebody I was watching the Senior Bowl. He definitely caught my attention because for them to move him into the interior part of the offensive line, and he was, man, just to get somebody like him on your offensive line. Come on, man. Let's see. 25th pick. The Houston Texans select Kelvin Banks Jr. Well, I could see him falling, but at the same time, I would be surprised. Especially for the Texans, because the Texans do need offensive line help bad. Like, C.J. Stroud was running for his life a majority of this season. You have to surround him with a good offensive line. Otherwise, he is not going to last long. Let's see. Rams choose Connerly Jr., tackle from Oregon. Yes, because they do need to address offensive line, as I will continue to say. The Ravens choose Nick Amanwari from South Carolina. And I literally just had this argument with Mook in the morning. Listen, if they get him and you pair him with Kyle Hamilton, it's like The Undertaker and Kane in the 90s. The Brothers of Destruction. You are talking about two safeties that are going to take your head off. Nothing else left to say. Moving forward. Lions, they choose an outside linebacker. Oluwafemi Aladejo from UCLA. They do need pass rusher help outside of, Hutch. I think this definitely would help. Now they did try to, patch it up by Smith. Didn't really get a whole lot of production out of him, so I think this would be a good move if they can't get, Myles Garrett, which please, for the love of God, please God, no. Commanders choosing Maxwell Harrison. Yes, I think that's actually a really good pick. Now, I wouldn't expect for him to be a first-round pick, though. Personally, I would have thought maybe get Trey Amos or Siobhan Revel or any of those guys, personally. But Buffalo Bills, Jahdae Barron, yes, because they do need to address the cornerback position, okay? Because that corner they drafted a few years ago, Kyer Elam, he's gone. He's gone. He is not coming back. He has fallen out of their good graces, okay? Kansas City Chiefs choosing Ariante Ursary, tackle from Minnesota. Definitely could see that because that was definitely one of their weak points in the Super Bowl was their offensive line. And we all know Andy Reid is going to address that position. He is not going to go into another season with a bad offensive line. Rest assured, they're going to lock up Trey Smith, and they are definitely going to address the line in multiple different ways. In the 32nd pick, why? Why? Just why? 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 The Eagles choose Walter Nolan. Another defensive lineman, folks. You know what? That's it. Podcast's over. Yep. Podcast is over, folks. It's over. It's over. Wrap it up, folks. It is over. Finito. It is done. So I'm going to end this episode here. If you guys like what you are listening, please like, share, subscribe, download the episodes. Please download, guys, because that is the only way that I can give you guys the fix that you guys need and love, okay? That is the only way that I can figure out, hey, you like this topic over that topic. You like for me to talk about the Cowboys and not the Steelers. Just let me know, please. And make sure that you guys leave a 5-star review on anywhere and everywhere that you listen to podcasts, okay? Whether that be on Apple Podcasts, whether that be on RSS feed, whether that be on Spotify, anywhere, okay? Please help a brother out. Please. YouTube. Football Junkies Pod, okay? Football Junkies Pod. When you go on our YouTube, there is a link tree. You click on the link tree, and it'll take you anywhere and everywhere that we have Football Junkies content, okay? Whether it be the TikTok, whether it be the Instagram, whether it be the Blue Sky, Twitter, you name it, it's all there, okay? For my TikTok people, Football Junkies Pod, okay? Football Junkies Pod. We should be rolling out some clips pretty soon. A lot is going on, with free agency, and I'm doing the Divisional Rodeo and a few other things in the background. So just give me some time, okay? Please, I appreciate it. I really love you guys so much. What else? Instagram, Football_Junkies Pod, okay? Football_Junkies Pod. Junkies Pod is not what? It is together, not spaced, okay? It is together, not spaced, folks. All right, what else am I forgetting? Oh, Twitter, GM Kale, okay? GM Kale, GMKAILE, all right? Same thing with Blue Sky, GM Kale, GMKAILE, all right? That is, I go and post all of my takes and my truth bombs about people's teams, especially the Steelers, okay? I am a menace to society when it comes to Steelers fans, okay? Not a lot of people like me because of my hot takes, but guess what? It's okay. It's perfectly fine. I'm a big boy. What else is that it? But as always, I hope I gave you guys the fix that you guys need. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. Are we going to stay on the west side or are we going to go to the south? I don't know. I'll put up a poll on the Instagram. You let me know. Or better yet, I'll just make the choice myself. But as always, this is your GM Kale signing out. Peace and love. Later. is what I would say if I thought this episode was over, because we just got some breaking news, more breaking news. The Seahawks, have given safety Rashawn Jenkins permission to seek a trade, okay? Games last season, Rashawn Jenkins had 53 tackles, 2 sacks, and a fumble return for a touchdown. Not surprised. They are definitely going to go after a safety in this draft class. Will it be Malachi Starks? Will it be the safety from South Carolina? Will it be the safety from Alabama? Or will it be the safety from Texas? You and I will find out when it comes to the draft day. But as always, this is your GM. Yes, I am finally signing out. Any other news will be saved for the other episode, okay? It might just be the only episode this week. It's a lot going on. Pray for me. Love you guys. Later.